Let's see, are we live? Hello to everyone joining me this afternoon. I hope I have some good lighting for you all. I do have more lights if we need a little bit more light. Okay, so we're a little bit early. We're a couple minutes till 1 o'clock. So we will wait a few minutes to get more people logged in, tuned in. And of course, I'll go over all the supplies that I have with me. And then we'll get to painting. So you can kind of see what you need kind of laid out in front of me here. But if you don't have the exact things that I have, don't worry about it. No worries. So we're about 1 minute to 1 o'clock. There's still time if you want to grab like a drink or a snack or something like that. I might grab a sweater. I'm a little chilly. But okay, we've got quite a few viewers tuning in. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, let me know in the comments where you guys are from. You can let me know maybe if you're a beginner, maybe you're more advanced. You could let me know that too. Hello to Suki. Thank you for joining me. All right, it is 1 o'clock. I will just maybe stall for 1 or 2 more minutes just so we can get a few more people tuned in, and then I'll go over all the supplies I have in front of me here. Hello to Kathy, hello to Shannon and Christine. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hello to Carmen. Hello to Stephanie in New Brunswick, a fellow Canadian. Yu Tong in Vancouver, hello, thank you for joining me. I'm in London, Ontario, so I'm not in Durham region specifically. About 2 hours away from the Toronto area is where I am in London, Ontario. Hello in Hamilton. Hello in upstate New York, Southern California. Okay, so other side of the continent. So it's definitely still morning over there. I've just had my lunch, so we're just after lunch here. Okay. Hello in Lithuania. Awesome. Thanks for joining me here. All right, so I see a lot of people who are kind of local to Southwestern Ontario. And then I see a lot of kind of all over the continent. Michigan, Nebraska, Niagara. Thank you so much for joining me. All right, I will get started on the supplies, and I'll go slowly in case you need to like run and dash off and grab something. All right, so let's start over here. We're gonna work with a pencil first. So I've just got my normal mechanical pencil and just a grubby eraser here. We'll be doing some light drawing, so we'll be using our pencil very lightly for watercolor painting. We'll draw our characters and we'll draw that big circle, but not much else. We don't need to really draw the little sprites and the little splashes and things. So just that middle area is where we'll use our pencil, and use a light pencil if you have a variety of pencils. So like an H, 2H, 4H, those are examples of light pencils. B pencils are darker and softer, so they would have kind of wider, darker lines. So like a 2B, a 4B, those are darker, but a mechanical pencil makes nice thin lines. So that's what I'll be using. So grab a pencil, put it over here. Later on, I'm going to be using this fine point, ultra fine point permanent marker. I just got it on Amazon. But any micro tip pen, black pen, that's what I'll use to do all these details, all the outlines of characters. So that's what I've got. If yours isn't quite as fine as that, you know, you can use a Sharpie. Maybe you have a fine point Sharpie. That's a regular tip Sharpie, so your lines will be a little thicker. Or you can hold off on doing the line work until later on, and then you can go buy something that's fine like that and finish up your painting then. So that's what I'm going to use. One of those, or maybe Sharpie, put that there. Let's talk paintbrushes. I'm only going to be using 2 paintbrushes today, kind of a medium and kind of a thin, smaller one. Some paintbrushes have numbers on them. So mine is an 8 and a 0, but use whatever you have available to you. Maybe they don't look like this. Maybe they're square. Maybe they're more round. Maybe less pointy than mine. But use whatever you have available to you and make do. So that's what I'll be using. So I'll use this one for bigger areas, like the big gray Totoro, the splashes, this kind of rainbow circle. And then of course this is for fine details like the little sprites and getting into fine little areas like that. So that's what I have for brushes. All right, so I'm trying to look at some of the comments as they come in. Catherine asks, can she use acrylics? Yes, you can do this in acrylics. You won't get the same kind of bleeding into each other effects, but you can definitely follow along and do your best. And for like these splashes, you just water it down like crazy. What else do I have? I have a cup of water, of course, for watercolor paint. I have a bit of paper towel. I also have a tissue box handy, a Kleenex box, just in case I have a spill or something. I could just quickly grab a tissue and blot if I make a little spill somewhere. But we are going to purposefully add splashes later on. So if you do have a little splash that dries, that's not a problem. So paper towel, Kleenex, water. I have a plate here. You might be wondering why do I have this rainbow plate? I'm going to be using that plate to trace. So based on the size of your paper, grab something that's round to trace. And that's all we're going to be using it for, just to trace a circle. I suppose if you had a compass, like you set the point and then you draw around like that, you could use a compass if you have one of those around. But based on how big your paper is, find something round that's, within the size of the paper to trace. So I'll just put my plate there for a sec. Let's talk paint. So I use tubes of watercolor. Of course, there's many different watercolors out there. I can show you some examples. Maybe you have something that's not like this, but maybe you have something like this, like a palette of pans or cakes, something like this. You can use that. And you have all your colors already ready to go. You do some mixing in the lid or on a second plate. You can grab a second plate to do some mixing on. You can grab, maybe you have one of these, a plastic palette with little wells in it. Do some mixing in there. So if you are using something like this, it's always handy to have a guide, like a little test swatch sheet, so that way you know what colors you have. So these are all greens here, but you wouldn't know it to look at it. But then if you do little test swatches, then you can tell which green is which. Just a tip. Of course, you can't do that right now. We're going to be doing a painting. But in the future, if you get a new set, make a little test sheet like that. So that's a nice little travel case. There does exist liquid watercolors in little jars. You could definitely follow along using liquid watercolors. Just they're in little eyedropper bottles. But we'll be using these tubes. You pretty much need the whole rainbow. The whole rainbow of watercolors. So I've got my black. I've got a purple. My purple is mauve, but you don't have to have that exact purple. I've got a blue. I'll use the blue here. Mine is cerulean, but again, you don't have to have the exact colors I'm using. You could use maybe cobalt or something lighter, or you can lighten up any dark blues with just adding lots of water. I've got a couple of greens here, but again, if you don't, let's say, have green, you can mix blue and yellow together to make green. But I'll be using viridian green and sap green kind of here. The leaf, the little baby acorn. I've got a yellow. This one's lemon, but I also have cadmium. Both of those would work. Any bright yellow. An orange, any orange. And again, if you don't have orange, just combine your yellow and your red together to make an orange. And I've got a red. Mine's alizarin crimson, but any red at all. Cadmium red is a nice primary red. So those are what I use. I squirt them onto this plate that I keep reusing over and over again, so it looks like a big mess. There's other colors on here that I'm not going to use today, just because I always have them on my palette. Anyway, all the browns, we're not going to use really any brown. Oh, there's a teeny bit of brown on my acorn. A teeny tiny bit of brown. Maybe you don't own any brown. Mix green and red together. If you mix green and red together, it makes a lovely brown. Actually, any of the two complementary colors mixed together makes brown. So let's say you only have blue and orange. Mix them together. They make brown. Purple and yellow makes brown. All right, so those are my colors. I'm going to put those away so they don't get underfoot paper. My paper is maybe a little bit bigger than what you might have today. Mine is, I believe, 15 by 11, but you can work on a smaller scale. It could be a square, doesn't have to be this big, or it doesn't have to be rectangular. And mine is Canson XL brand, so kind of a medium quality for a medium price. You can, of course, get more expensive or cheaper brands of paper. But mine's Canson. Has a bit of a texture. It's cold press, so it's a little bit bumpy, and that's what you want. You want a kind of texture. Let's look at our painting. So I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it's a great movie by Studio Ghibli, My Neighbor Totoro. So that's Totoro. These guys don't really have names in the movies, but they're like woodland spirits, let's say. All these guys live in the woods, and they're kind of woodland spirits that help out kids, let's say. And then these little black sprites, they're kind of like dust bunnies that live in abandoned houses. They're really cute, but they a new family moves in, so these guys move out and go live in the woods. Really cute movie. It's a really short movie, actually, an hour and a half, so if you have kids with maybe short attention spans, it's a great movie for them. Lots of colors and fun. So let's look at this. We're going to do our drawing first. Draw the circle, and we're going to draw the characters, and then we won't draw the sprites. We'll just make them, just freehand. Yeah, gray, blue. This guy's white, and then I did a little bit of like gray to like give him some shading. We're going to do a bunch of colors in here, almost like a rainbow spectrum thing. You can replace any of these colors if you don't want to go greens to orange to the violet. You can go blue, purple, whatever you want, pinks, in any order too. It doesn't have to be like a spectrum order. It could just be one color if you want. Or you can make it look like a forest with just greens. All right. So we'll go nice and slow, step by step. We'll have the example right here as we do ours to reference it. Now before we do our pencil drawing, I will talk about a little bit of like terminology we'll use while we're painting later on. So often I'll refer to the transparency level of the color I'm using. So this is what I mean by transparency level. You can have very watery paint, and that would be a level 1 transparency. So a very little bit of pigment and lots of water, and you end up seeing the paper through your paint. So that's the lightest transparency versus a level 5 transparency. That's your thick, dark, opaque. You can't really see the paper through the paint after it's dry. So that's a level 5. And then you have all your middle transparencies too. So 3 is kind of that halfway, you know, half pigment, half water, a nice medium transparency. So as we're painting, I'll say, you know, we're going to do the blue in a level 3, let's say. So that's what I mean. Most of this particular painting is kind of a medium transparency. There are a few spots where, let's say, the black of the eyes, that would be like a 5, nice and dark. Maybe this is a little darker, maybe a 4. But for the most part, most of the painting is a 3. But there are lots of paintings out there, even some that I've taught right here on Facebook Live, where we use like all the transparencies and we're constantly going back and forth between a light one and a dark one and a light one. So that chart kind of helps. All right, pencils, erasers, and our round object to trace. So I'm going to use this plate. So find something that'll fit on your paper. If it's a little smaller than mine is, or if it's a little bigger, just make it work. All right, so I'm going to be tracing and drawing quite hard and dark so that the camera can see that. But what I want you guys to do is to draw lightly so that even if some pencil is left visible in the final piece, it's barely visible. All right, so I'm going to press kind of firm. Don't do it as firmly as me, pretty much. I'm going to go all the way around my plate. There's a circle. So I've got a little gap here at the top. If yours is a little closer to the top or a little further from the top, that's okay. That's all right. That looks good. And then let's see our Totoro. He's like the king of the woodland spirits, let's say. He's a real big guy. And his face, we're just going to do his eyes and nose and like his forehead, is going to be kind of peeking up from the very bottom of your page. So could we trace it? Yeah, I guess you could trace it with the circle of the plate if you wanted to do that. Trace it like that, or you could just freehand his face shape. Something like that, nice arching shape. Doesn't have to be perfectly circular. That is not a problem. So again, draw yours lightly. I'm just drawing it dark for demonstration purposes. So this line is unnecessary. So here I go with my eraser. Don't be shy with the eraser if you want to touch up any areas that get a little wonky. Okay, there's Totoro's forehead area. So we got big, we got medium, we got small. This medium guy is going to be blue. I'm going to draw this shape of his face and body before I do the ears. I'll do this shape first, then I'll add the ears. So I would say this guy goes up maybe like halfway up the circle, ish. He's a little more narrow than, say, Totoro. And do I want to adjust it a little bit? It looks okay. It's not too bad. I might go a little wider over here. Have I lost anyone yet? It's pretty simple shapes here. Cheryl asks, is this for someone who has never done watercolors? Of course. We try to be as beginner-friendly as possible here. And Ruth asks, can it be seen later? Yes, so in the description The very first thing it should say is that this video will be available forever to rewatch again and again, next year even, next month, later tonight. Janelle says, everyone's welcome here. That is true. All are welcome. Beginners, more advanced, kids, adults. A well-trained dog could do this. All right, so we've got my blue guy's shape. I wish I knew their names. They don't really have names in the movie. And I want to draw Totoro's ears that are next to the blue guy. And they're kind of, would you say that's like the shape of a leaf? Or like a raindrop? You can picture that as the shape of a raindrop. Or a leaf. And they don't have to be the same. Mine are slight. This one's a little fatter than this one. They don't have to be perfectly the same. So they're going to sprout up from here. There's a little kind of zigzaggy bit that I'll draw in a second. But first I'll just draw that raindrop shape. Nice, big. They're almost bunny ears. They're quite big ears. And yeah, this one is not going to turn out exactly how this one will turn out. And that's just the nature of art. Everyone at home, your art will look different from my art. All right, there's my big, like a raindrop, I would say. Almost bunny-like ears. And then this part of his ear is attached, and it's kind of like a weird, messy zigzag. A messy zigzag. Messy zigzag, and it could go like on your blue guy a little bit. If it does, then you just kind of take out the lines that you don't need. And just hit all those little bits, those eraser bits all over the place. Need like a little mini vacuum for those bits. Okay, so the blue guy, he does have kind of similar ears in that they look kind of bunny-like. Okay, so I'm gonna go, yeah, they're kind of the same kind of teardrop leaf shape on the blue guy. And they don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. Mine are a little different. And I have a space in the middle for my white little bunny spirit. Ooh. So let's do that little white guy. Very similar shape to this blue one. Like a oval. And he has little bunny ears too. A little bit wider at the bottom than the others, let's say. So that's the main bodies of the characters. We will add their features. Ali asked if I can zoom out. No, that's as high as that camera mount will let me go. Okay, we do want to add the eyes, noses, etc., so that as we're, say, filling this area in gray, we don't paint the eyeballs gray as well. Totoro has very big eyes. They get kind of crazy, scary big in the movie. If you have something round that you want to use to trace, you can do that, or you can just wing it. Let's see, and they're quite wide set eyes. And you have your eraser if you want to tweak them. I might move that one a little bit that way. That's pretty good. And your lines can be sketchy. Mine are quite sketchy lines. They don't have to be just one fine line. They don't have to be as big either. And then his little nose, sort of triangular, and it's a little bit rounded on the top. And, you know, try to have it in the center. Makes sense. Let's go with this. Like a little bunny nose, almost. Or a cat's nose, you know, when you're drawing a cat. And yeah, so details like this black line we'll do later on with the pen, so we don't need to really draw that in. We could draw the pupils. Let's draw the pupils. My pupils, he's like staring straight at us, but you can give him a little more character. What if he wanted to be looking up at his friends? Then I would put his pupils towards the top of his eye, so he's looking up at his friends. You could do that. Or if you want him to look like to the side, you could put both the pupils to one side or the other side, whatever you feel like. And then, yeah, so whiskers, we'll do those later with the black pen, so we don't really need to draw them. And there's a leaf. There's a leaf on his head. If you've seen the movie, he uses the leaf as like an umbrella. I've made it much smaller than in the movie. In reality, it's like, you know, covers his whole head. It's a giant leaf. But a bit of artistic license here. So I'm just going to erase a little bit of the crown of his head so I can put this leaf. And it's just, you know, cartoon leaf, nothing fancy. Make it a little wider. So that one's a little wider. That one's a little longer. Any kind of leaf you want to do. All right, so that's pretty much all the details we need to draw on the Totoro himself. If you're still doing a few of those details, it's still here. Just keep plugging away. All right, this medium guy, he has a white belly, so we want to draw that line so when we're painting the blue, we don't accidentally paint his white belly blue, because all the white that you see is just the white of the paper. In watercolor, you don't really paint with white. You just don't have white. It does exist, but it's pretty useless. I'm pretty sure I do have a full tube of white that I've never cracked into. Let's draw that belly. So like an arch. Any shape. Any shape for that white belly. Work with the space that you have. So you need room for his face. And this will be his belly. And then there's these little, on the belly, would you call that like a boomerang shape? These little shapes, little curves. I think they look like boomerangs. Totoro has them too, but we just don't see his belly. It will be way down here. So I'm going to draw 3 boomerang shapes. That's the easiest way to describe them. I guess you could call them like, maybe like a bean shape if they were a little elongated. Like a kidney bean. Something like that. Mine are a little off center because I keep looking at that leaf stem is throwing my center off. But that's why we have erasers. We can just touch up positions of things. He looks kind of creepy. Ooh. 3 little mini boomerangs. And then this guy has oval eyes. So you see these are very round. These are more like an upright oval. Still with round pupils though. His pupils are still round. So, nose around here, so eyes around there. Any size. These could be bigger, smaller than mine. It could be a scooch wider. And then his nose is kind of similar to Totoro's, but maybe a little less deep, depth-wise. It's a little shallower. Again, it looks kind of like a bunny nose. Round pupils. And you can have the pupils, if he wants to look up, side, down. Yeah, so if anyone is, falling behind a little bit, I will give you time to finish up your drawing. And also the video is available forever. So you can watch it just after this. You can watch it next week, anytime. So Marcy says that the other guys are named Blue Totoro and White Totoro. That makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you for looking that up. And they're different sizes. This guy goes invisible in the movie. I think maybe all of them are able to go invisible. All right, so do I need more details on this guy? No, he doesn't have whiskers or anything. Yeah, and you can kind of see the differences in the original and this one. Yours at home will look different too. Okay, it's all different interpretations. All right, this guy, he doesn't have a nose or a mouth, he just has eyes, and he's holding a little acorn with his little hands. So I like to draw the hands coming in first, and then I'll draw the acorn like in his hands after. So it kind of looks like a ghost, actually. Little hands. Go, he has like 3 little fingers. 1, 2, 3, and then back out again. This is one little hand, so we'll just mirror the hand next to it. 1, 2, 3 little fingers, and back again. So there's his 2 little arms, 2 little hands coming in towards the middle. We'll put the acorn in his hands. He could be holding something else if you wanted to put something else of significance to you, maybe. In the movie, there's also like an ear of corn that's important to the plot, so maybe you can put an ear of corn, a corn on the cob. But the acorns are kind of like magical acorns. So draw like a little acorn cap, like a kind of like a semicircle. Half a circle is the acorn cap. And then the bottom of the acorn, I've exaggerated it a little bit, like a point. It comes to a little point, like the point of a leaf. And then the side of the acorn is covered by his fingers, so you don't really see the side of the acorn. And you could give it a little teeny tiny stem. A little stem. Just a basic cartoon acorn. And we gotta give him some, his eyes are kind of buggy. Circle eyes with a little circle pupil. No mouth, no nose. Might go a little bigger. That's why we have erasers. A little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks good. What else? I don't think we'll need to draw anything else, so let's see how much of this I can get in here. There you go. So we'll give you a couple minutes to finish up your drawing. Use that eraser as much as you need to. Let's see if I can cruise through some of these comments. Libby says her son made the top one look like Pikachu. Adorable. Yeah, you could give him little Pikachu features, little cheeks, little nose, little button nose. Let's see, scrolling. Christina says hers is leaning to the side. That's okay. Gives it like a quirky character. Eddie loves this painting. Excellent. Thank you so much, Eddie. Yeah, it's something fun, bright, colorful. On this, well, it's snowy where I live. Maybe you guys don't have snow where you are. but it's kind of a gray day for me, so pop of color is good. Christine says the black things are called sussprites. Okay, okay. Sussprites. Dust bunnies. They are like dust bunnies, yeah. They're the little black guys. They creep around your house, making things dusty, and live in the walls. Hello to Adele from Paris. I wonder if that's Paris, Ontario, so an hour away from me, or whether that's Paris, France, across the ocean. Thank you for joining me either way. New York, Wisconsin, hello, hello. Shannon says watercolor pens. Yeah, you could have watercolor pens. Experiment with those, definitely. Soot sprites. Oh, okay. Soot sprites. Okay, where am I going to put this so I don't knock it over? Bring that a little closer if you want to peek at anything a little closer. Okay, I'll give you another minute to finish your drawing, but then we gotta keep moving on. Linda has an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old joining her. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I'd love to see how kids interpret my instructions. And kids are just so much more free and loose. Devil may care. Just do it. Get it done. I love seeing kids' renditions. Ting Ting asks, can you see us? No, I can't see you guys. If we were, say, on like Zoom, one of the Zooms, then if you had your camera on, then I'd be able to see you. But really, I'm just looking at my own screen. Gonna talk to myself for like 2 hours. Probably less than 2 hours because it's a lot of quick stuff. Pardon me. Okay, so hopefully you have most of your drawing done. Make a few final touches. I'm going to start getting my paints ready. So whether you have tubes and squeeze some out onto a plate, or maybe a palette like this. So I want to get my colors ready that I'm about to use for the circle. So if you're going to follow along with the colors I'm doing, get those ready. If you want to do completely different colors, go ahead and get those ready. So I add water to each of the ones that I'm going to use. So Viridian Green, a nice, like an evergreen color. So add a bit of water, stroke it with my brush, because these are all dry. I've let them sit overnight, so these are all dried up. That's the beauty with watercolor. You can reuse them over and over. Sap green, I've got it over here. Just kind of rejuvenate that with some fresh water. There we go. My yellow, lemon or cadmium, some nice bright yellow. Some kind of orange. If you don't have orange, you can mix yellow and red together. Orange, just wetting that, rejuvenate it. Something reddish. I've got alizarin crimson. This is a kind of a warm purple. Mine's called mauve. Mine's called mauve. But any purple, maybe you have a more bluer purple, that would work too. Or maybe you just want to leave purple out of it altogether. You don't have to have it. Ting Ting asks, am I using my medium or small brush? I'm using my medium right now because I'm going to do this big circular area. So I'll only really go to my little tiny brush for small details like the sprites and like the eyeballs and like these little boomerang shapes. But for 90% of the painting, I'll use my medium brush. Okay, so I've got those colors ready to go. I'm going to start on the left side and work my way around, only because I'm right-handed. So if I started here and then went like this, and then I had to put my wrist down, get all messy. So if you start this way. So if you are left-handed, you could start this way. And you could either reverse the colors, have green on this side, purple on that side, or just start with purple and work your way this way. Either way, Viridian Green. So I'm going to mostly stay within my pencil lines, but if I go a little bit outside, that's fine because, you know, we're going to have splashes. You won't see that you've gone outside the line very, very much. So I've got a lovely Viridian Green, and I'm using kind of a medium transparency. It's not too light, it's not too dark, it's kind of medium transparency. And I'm going to, you know, fill in this section on the far left, knowing that I have to do many other colors all the way around this circle shape. And just go real close to your pencil lines. You can go a little bit over. If it ends up going a little over, if it goes a little under, that's fine too. Something like that. And then I've left this edge, it's kind of jagged, it doesn't have to be smooth at all. And then depending on how you've drawn your ear, you might have to go a little bit in here. Like I do, I have this little gap right in here. That'll do a little bit of that same dark green right in there. But if your ear is maybe wider and it's fatter and touches here, you might not have to do in there. So just judge based on how you've drawn your ear. Okay, so get some of that down nice and wet. Nice and wet, lots of water. And before this dries, we do have to keep moving on to each new color in succession while this is still wet. So we don't have time to wait for each person to be done this one. You just have to keep moving to the next color. Keep moving because we have to keep it wet. So I'm going to do a lighter green. If you don't have two different colors of green, just take the green you have, add some yellow, and that makes a lighter green. So I've got sap green, which is a lighter green. So I'm going to do sap green to about, maybe to about there-ish. These sections aren't, you know, perfectly spaced out. Just rough guidelines. Okay, so I've got most of my sap green down, and you can see that I haven't yet let them touch. So first I just put down a whole bunch of my sap, and then when I'm ready, when I want them to touch, I'll just rub the two of them together. Here and here, wherever they join. And I just use my brush and just swirl them, rub them, dab them. So then you get kind of like that in-between color. It just will naturally make kind of an ombre, a gradient. And see how much water? You can see how glossy it is. You do need lots of water. Yeah, so that'll dry. It'll make its own little shapes and things. In watercolor, you sometimes get what you might call a mistake, but it's not a mistake. So make patches like this, patches like this, a little bit darker, this kind of patch here. That's all part of it. You know, these kind of patches in the background. Oh yeah, right here. We sometimes call them cauliflowers because they look like a cauliflower. That's all part of watercolor. Listen to me talk. I can't talk for long. I want to keep moving. So my sap green's starting to dry. Oh no. Let's get my yellow going. Yellow is kind of here. I'll do yellow, orange, yeah. Yellow. Not too dark, not too light, a nice medium transparency here. Yeah, you can see spots where my paint went over the line, not a big deal. I'll do my yellow to about halfway. The 12 o'clock position. So I've got my yellow, I've got my green. I want the yellow and green to mix, mingle. There we go. I've got my yellow and my greens squidged together. See how watery it is? Even like if I tilt my paper, you can see some of the pigment is on the move. That's how wet. Okay, so we're about halfway full. If you're still in this section or in this section, just keep going at it. Just keep marching along. It needs to stay wet, so just keep going. Orange. Orange, if you want to do pink at this point. Anything. Do forest colors. There's a very strong forest theme in the movie, so browns and greens would give that forest vibe. There's my orange. Blending together, orange and yellow. A little of the orange goes into the yellow, a little yellow goes into the orange. Makes a lovely, that would be a tertiary color because this is a primary color, yellow. That is a secondary color, orange. A lovely tertiary yellow-orange. Okay, orange, like a red. I've got alizarin crimson, which is kind of like a pinky-ish red. So I've got to have room for my red, but then also some purple. So I'll leave room for purple still too. Red and orange squidged together. Yeah, so my paper, even though it is decent quality watercolor paper, it will do a little bit of warping. That's very normal. Very normal. So sometimes I'll bend it back the other way. But as it dries, it'll kind of flatten itself out again. And whenever my paintings are like finished, I will pop them into my, I have like a photography portfolio that I keep all my art in so that everything stays tidy, flat, undamaged. So here's a lovely warm purple color. Any color you want to use. If you've gone around the circle and you realize, you know, you've got your red over here, you got your purple here, and you have space for one more color, you can add another color. Blue would be the next logical one. You can add blue. Yeah, so that's kind of a simple way to transition from one color to the next, is to paint them, you know, side by side. So viridian and then sap green, and then where they touch, I just squidge them together, and just keep making your way around and around. And there's a cauliflower starting there. So maybe I had more water there than over here. So just how it's absorbed into the paper, how it's drying in the air, makes these little shapes, which is all part of watercolor. And my circle, you know, there's little bits where I've gone over, but it still looks circular. So we'll let you finish up your little background there. Okay, let's see if I can read some of these. Yeah, you can use any size paintbrush at any point. So if I'm using my medium, you can use a big one. If I'm using my small and you don't want to use your medium, go for it. Any brush. Diana has some of these sprites under her couches and everywhere else. That's funny. Don't we all? Except mine are made of cat hair. Allie's going to ink everything. Okay, yeah. You can definitely do that. So that would be called line and wash. So if you were to go ahead and do your lines first and then do your colors, that would be called line and wash. And yeah, it's imperative that the pen you use is waterproof, because the water is going on after, and you wouldn't want the black to just bleed everywhere. So here's a tip. When you're done painting or you're resting from painting, always leave your brushes not sitting in the water. When the brushes are sitting in the water, your bristles, imagine the bristles on the bottom from gravity, they're bending, they're getting out of shape. So if you take them out and just lay them down. Lay them down, or even if you have like a cup, you can stand them upright in the cup. Just as long as they're not sitting in the bottom of the water, like at a weird angle. Preserve your brushes. This can get out of here. All right. I'll give you another 30 seconds to finish your circle. The next part is a fun part. We're going to do these splashes using the same colors that we just used, because why not? We've got them all like prepped and ready and wet, so we might as well do the splashes that correspond with the same colors we literally just did. Fun stuff. If you do want to put down like a tablecloth, newspaper, bed sheet, put something down so that you don't get splashes everywhere, do that. Maybe put an apron or like a junkie shirt if you're worried about that. But watercolor is quite forgiving in that it usually comes out with just water. So yeah, even my table, I'll sometimes see some splashes on my table from days ago. Comes off with a wet rag, a wet wipe, pretty easily. Splashes. So for my splashes, I'm going to use my medium. You can definitely use bigger than this. Something that'll hold a lot of watery paint in the bristles. So this little thin one, that'll hold 1 drop. So that's no good. Something that'll hold some substantial wet paint in it. And if you look at the example, the splashes sort of correspond in the same areas as that circle. But if you don't want to do that, you want to do purple over here, and you want to do green over here, and maybe add some blue. Whatever colors you want to do, please go ahead and do them. And here's my water. I'll start over here with the green. You can start wherever. Lots of water. Let's see, where's that green patch? So here I just kind of blobbed it around. You can make shapes, but you could just do blobs like that. So sometimes I blob it around like that. And it could even touch that too, if you want it to. Maybe it's like bursting out, kind of a thing. Lots of water, lots of puddles here. And then, so you can see these kind of lines that come out. That's from me forcefully blowing on it. So I just take a big deep breath and I go, and then the paint, you'll see it go flying in the opposite direction from where you are. So be aware of people around you when you're doing this. So I literally just get my head right in there, blow. Look at that splat. Yeah, so you could do that several times or just once or whatever floats your boat. So be careful of your sibling next to you or mom or dad. And you can make it as wild as you want or not. And sometimes I'll grab some more paint and just, maybe I want a bigger blob here. You can specifically dab somewhere you want it. Ooh, that was a good one. Isn't that fun? So much fun. I got a question, Debbie. No, I don't have watercolor pencil crayons myself. But if you were to want to do this in watercolor pencil crayons, so I would, let's say you're doing this blue guy, I would lightly shade him in the blue of your choice, lightly shade with your pencil crayon, and then you get just plain water on your brush and just blend it all to a nice smooth blue. That's how I would use watercolor pencil crayons. Good question. So there's my green patch. I'm going to go ahead and do my sap green, a lighter green, any colors you used before, plus any additional colors you want to use as well. So blob it like that, dab, dab, dab. Sometimes if I want like big splats, I can also do this. So I've loaded up, this is loaded with wet paint. I lift my paintbrush up high, so I'm getting real close to the camera, and then you can aim kind of where you want the drip to land, and then I literally squeeze it with my fingers, Squeeze. There it goes. I need more. There we go. So you can do that kind of splatting too. But your fingers get real messy. Where's my tissue? Don't hyperventilate from all the blowing here. And it's okay if things start running into each other. So some of this gets into there. That's okay. Yellow gets into the green. Beautiful. So I've got kind of a yellowy green. I'm not worried. I like it. And I still have quite a bit of white page showing, but if you want to fill in more of this with more splashes and these little blowy bits, you can definitely fill it in more. And you can do multiple layers too. Oh, you can do some of these too. So instead of dripping it from on high, way up high, you can just kind of do some light speckles like that, or light like this. You can do some of those. Not too much. So I don't have too much room up here. That's fine. I'm just kind of do like a little bit. Orange. Oops. Yeah, it's a little wet. That's okay. That's a nice big orange blob. I'm doing red. Blob some red around here. Yeah, some of my splashes go right onto my circle. That's a cool look. A purple. Purple. I might even put a little bit of this darker purple. Why not? Yeah, it's a little bit of a bluier purple if you're feeling adventurous. Ooh, right off the page. There, so a little bit different. If you kind of look at your overall painting and notice maybe on this side there's a little bit more white space than on this side, you can add more. You can add like more to any of these. Like if I wanted to add more yellow, see this is a little bit grainy yellow because I had some green really close by, so I might want to go back and add some like yellowier, more yellowy yellow. Yeah, you could use a straw for this. The straw gives a more aim and more control. But I find with blowing it just with your mouth, it's more wide in all directions at once. But a straw, yeah, straw would be good. Even so, over here I'm looking. I might want to add a little blue because over here I added a little purple at the bottom corner, and I really liked that. I might add a little blue in this corner just because I can. Why not? If you want to add some purples amongst these, if you want to add some greens amongst these, just to kind of tie it all together, you can. There, that looks good. That looks good. So there's that version of splashes, and then there's that version of splashes. And they should dry fairly quickly because it's a very thin, almost a wash. So even if I'm looking over here, like this is definitely touchable. That first green I put down. This one is also very touchable. It's almost dry. Oh, even like right here. So we'll have no problem doing our little black sprites later on. But what I really want to check is that kind of this area near our characters is dry, which it is. And even if you have a couple wet patches among your circle, you should be okay to start on the characters, the colors of the characters. So give you another minute to keep splatting and blowing and sloshing it around. And you can always come back and add more later. Even though it's a snowy, gray day, I think we're going to do some tobogganing. Tobogganing after my event is done. Why not? One of the few things we still can do. So Angie says she doesn't have any gray. That's okay because we use black. Do you have black? I'm using black. I've never owned gray paint. I always just water down the black. That's what I do. Yeah, so if you're looking at your circle, the rainbow circle that we did, and it's quite wet still, I would recommend you can grab a tissue or a paper towel and just blot. If you have any really wet areas near the characters, you would just gently blot a little of that water. It would help it dry just a little bit faster. And then maybe you would work on like one of the characters that's not directly touching a wet spot. So Leanne asked if splatters get on Totoro's ear. That's okay because mine has splatters on it too. There's some splatters there. There's some bleeds there. So when we go and do our gray, a lot of the splatters will just kind of like blend into the gray, which is not a problem. So even here I've got a little bit of red. Over here I've got a little bit of green. And later on, if you want to add even more splatters and it splats on top of the gray, not a problem. So I've got some there. This guy's got some. I think that was when I put my finger on it accidentally, so there's a little patch there. It's kind of fun and messy. So no one's looking at tiny little splatters. Okay, put that there. All right, so I am going to work top down, just because it's easier for your hand. If I were to paint this part first, and then I had to put my hand here to paint the leaf, let's say, messes ensue. So if I start here and go down, less chance of a mess, hopefully. Oh, Allie's talking about beam paints. Well, guess what, Allie? Boom, beam paints right there. Got some myself for Christmas. Yeah, it's a good little Canadian Indigenous company. So we'd be supporting Canadian Indigenous women with beam paints. It is a good quality paint. I'm going to start at the top with my little white bunny guy. Most of him will stay white. I'm just going to add some gray around the outside to give him kind of like a shading. And we're going to do his little acorn. And then the other stuff we can do with the pen. So the eyes and the hands we could do with pen, and the outline is with pen. So right now we're just doing the gray, light gray, and the acorn. So we have to rejuvenate my black. Here's my black. And I've just got a little bit of very thin amount of black here. So I'm just going to water down a bunch of black. So it's a very, very, very light gray. See how light that is? It's like see-through. Very see-through. Okay. Around the outer edges of this white bunny guy. It's okay if the edges are a little bit wibbly wobbly is fine. This is just like a hint of shading. And the ears, if your ears are rather thin, it's okay if the whole ear ends up being gray. That's fine. So I've got this is my thin brush because I'm making thin lines. But I could totally do this also with my medium brush and just use the very tip of it. There, so right around the little white bunny, a layer of very light gray all the way around him. And again, if his ears end up fully gray, that's fine. I'm pretty sure this guy's ears are fully gray in my original. Very, very, very pale. Pale, pale, pale black. Okay, so the eyes we'll fully do with the pen. Don't worry about the eyes. Don't worry about the arms, the hands. The acorn, brown and green. So we do have green from before. Pick whatever green you want to do. Of course, you can do a fully brown acorn, like a darker brown top and a lighter brown bottom. It doesn't have to be a fresh green acorn. Ting Ting doesn't have gray. That's because we used black, very watered down black. I've got my little green acorn. Here's the bottom. And when I go to do the cap, the acorn cap with brown, I don't want my brown to touch my green. If the brown and green touch together, they'll just bleed into each other and make like a weird browny green. So I literally just leave a gap. I leave a gap because my pen will go there later on. So I've got several browns here. If you don't have brown, red plus green mixed together can make a sort of a brown. But any brown color you want to do. Just don't let them touch. I'll show you that. So green and brown, not touching each other. There's a very narrow gap. That's where my pen line will go later on. And you could do the stem with brown, or we could do the stem with the pen later on, which is what I'm going to do. And that's pretty much all we're going to do for the little white Totoro. I'm going to do my blue medium-sized Totoro next, and I'm going to use cerulean. Cerulean is a nice bright blue. Cerulean. What else could you use instead if you don't have cerulean? Like a sky blue. You could kind of use cobalt blue and really water it down. What else do I have in here? Nice bright blue. Ultramarine, but that's kind of a purplier blue, but that could work too. That's sky blue. That's cobalt blue. Cobalt, sky, ultra. Any kind of lighter blue that you own. Cerulean's what I'm using. Gotta wet it. And again, I'm gonna do kind of a medium transparency, like a number 3. And yeah, it's just pretty uniform on the whole ears, face. We're going to avoid painting on the belly, and we're not going to paint inside the eyes, of course. If you do end up painting, like say where the nose is, we can just do the nose in the marker. So if you go on the nose a little bit, that's not the end of the world. That's a nice blue. You could change the color too. It's blue in the movie, but I'm sure there exists many colors of Totoros in the forest. I've got my blue. I have not painted inside my eyeballs, of course, and I've not painted on my belly. That's white. And you can even see, sometimes I didn't even stay in the lines. My blue went a little bit outside. But when we add the black pen, it'll just kind of tidy it up just a smidge. So I'm not worried about that. Yeah, you can kind of see like my blue is puddling, maybe a little darker in the corners here. That's okay. That'll give us like a cool effect, almost like shading for free. We didn't even have to work for it. There's his face and his ears. I'm going to do those little boomerangs with the same color blue. And I'm going to use my little skinny small brush so I can get right into those little teeny tiny little bean shapes. There we go. So we've got my little boomerang shapes are blue as well. And this guy, yep, this guy's already starting to dry. So the gray has already started to dry. My acorn's still wet. Will I do the leaf or which one next? Maybe I'll do my leaf. I've got my green right there. Yeah, so if you've got your blue filled in, we're going to do this green leaf. I think mine's sap green, and then I think I dabbed a little yellow in there. So I'll start with sap green. Whatever brush is appropriate for your size. So maybe your page is a little smaller than mine. Maybe your leaf is a little smaller than mine. So maybe use smaller brush, but I'm going to use my medium. Any color green you want to use, actually. If you want to do it like a darker leaf, you can do a fall colored leaf. And I'm going to do, again, like a medium transparency. Not too dark, not too light. There we go, nice. And I might do the stem with my little baby brush. That makes sense. There we go. So that's one color in my leaf. But if you do want to have kind of like it looks a little bit lighter in the middle. I grabbed some yellow. Any yellow. And you can just dribble, tap a little yellow in the middle, wet on wet. So wet yellow on wet green. And if you just kind of tap a little bit in the middle, it'll bleed. It'll do whatever it wants to do as it dries. Maybe a cauliflower will form. That'll be a cool texture. You can add some dark green if you want. And there's my yellow. My yellow's kind of spreading out weirdly. And you can see how liquidy everything is on my paper. You can tilt it and things start to move. Lovely. Okay, back to the gray. Again, we're using black. watered down black is our gray. I'm sure there does exist gray watercolor, but usually, like in a set like this, you're not going to find gray. People just use black. Lots of water, lots of water. So as we're painting like our ears and our face of Totoro here, we have to avoid touching wet to wet. So my blue guy, he's still very wet. This leaf is still very wet. When you're working with watercolors, it's okay to leave a white gap between a wet section and a wet section. So you get as close as you can without them actually touching. As close as you dare. If it's a little wider than the white space that I leave, that's okay. Everyone's learning here. Let me just do something. I'll show you, like, let's say you want to put some gray on here, and you got some black here, you have some water, and you go and you put some down, and you're like, oh no, that is way too dark. How am I going to fix that? I just immediately rinse out my whole brush, rinse it out, and then just spread that around. So anytime you're doing any painting, you put the paintbrush on the page and it's way too dark of a transparency, just immediately grab water, rinse out all that paint, grab water, and just spread it around. Spread it out. And so that's a lovely gray tone there. So over here, I'm close to the blue, so I'm just going to not let it touch. Just going to skim right past it. And I would start off lighter than you think you need. And you can always darken things as you go, or you can darken it later with another layer. But you can't lighten things after the fact. It's always good to start light and then darken as you go. So right in here, I'm being very careful with those little zigzags, the zigzags of his ear, because I'm real close to the blue. So just get as close as you can and just leave a white gap. So we're obviously not painting inside the eyeballs. Those are going to be white, so don't paint your eyeballs gray. And then here I'm getting close to my leaf. I'm just going to leave a little bit of space. A little bit of space. It takes practice. Sometimes I rotate If you haven't noticed, I rotate so that it's the most comfortable for your hand. So even when I was doing some of the splashes, I was rotating the page around. I can also show you what does happen when you touch wet and wet together. Let me just finish this up and then I'll show you like a problem solving, troubleshooting. All right, so that's all gray. Yeah, so what if you're painting along, I've got some wet blue here, I've got some wet gray. What if you did accidentally let them touch? I'll show you up close. My blue, the wet blue, is flooding into the wet gray area, and I'm going, oh no, it's ruined. It's not. Take a clean tissue or a paper towel. Sometimes I like to make it into like a little shape like that. Q-tip would also work, and I just blot, 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 blot. Get as much of that leaked blue out of your gray. Dry it up, and then I even dry up that area where it crossed over, that little water bridge where it crossed over. I blot that up. Okay. So now there's still a little bit of blue left, but it's not a big tragedy. And then I go back and get my gray, cover it up, but make sure they don't touch again. Do it all over again. There. A Q-tip, you could just gently blot with a Q-tip would work. I usually use my tissue. Just get it in there. Ugh. Around. Now I'm looking at my Totoro here. I've got this little puddle of gray at the tip of his ear, only because it's like a little bit of a valley. But I don't want his ear tip to be that dark, so I've got my handy tissue again. I can just blot at it. See, and now it looks more gray. So you can see it here too. I've got a little bit too much of a buildup of the black. You can just blot at it. Blot, blot, blot. Get a little of it up. Oh, even over here, it's kind of darker. Just gently, just a little. So now it's more of a uniform color of gray. I could even do a little, this is mostly dry, but the ear tips are a little darker and denser. Don't want to do it too much. Just a little, that's all I'm gonna do. Look how colorful and cute this is looking. The black pen work really will bring this to life. It's super cute with the black pen added. All right, a little bit more paint work. We're almost into the pen work. A little bit more paint work. What will I use? I'm going to do the eyes. So I'm going to do black eyes here, black eyes here. I might save that tiny, tiny nose for the pen, but I'm going to do this nose with black paint. So when I'm doing my eyes, see those little white dots within? That's just the paper left behind, so we have to avoid painting in those circles just to leave a little highlight. If you accidentally paint the whole pupil black, but you still want a little white dot as a highlight, let it dry, let your black dry. And then when it's fully dry, you get a little tiny dot of either acrylic paint, like white acrylic paint, or a tiny dot of white opaque ink, or a whiteout pen or a paint pen would work to just dot those little highlights after the fact if you fill the whole thing in black. Let's say. So this black we're going to use like at its maximum strength, so not watered down for gray, but black black. And I'm using my little thin brush. I like to outline the eyeball, the pupil first. And then I will outline where I want the highlight to be. Then I fill it in. Okay, and then my highlight, I want it over there. So black circle with a black circle in it. And then once we fill it in, it'll look like a pupil. There. Hey. Now he's starting to look like he has some character, instead of just a vacant stare. There we go. And of course, if one eyeball seems bigger than the other, you can adjust the other one. There we go. I will also fill in his nose, his little nose, and there is a white line that I've left as the highlight of the nose. So very similar to the eyes, we just don't paint that white line. I'm going to outline first. I always outline, and then I'll do the white line outline. Something like that. Yeah. Cutie. Very cute. I'm going to do these eyeballs, but not the nose. I'm going to do that with the marker, the pen. So this is much smaller. If yours are even smaller than mine and you want to do yours with the marker or the pen, one's bigger than the other, of course. Yeah, one still looks bigger than the other, but I'm not worried. That's pretty good. Okay. So we're gonna move into some pen work. And then the little sprite guys could either be done in paint or pen, and I'll show you how to do those last. The little black fuzzy guys. But we'll do our pen, our thin black pen. So mine is a ultra fine point permanent marker, actually. That's what that looks like. Nice and thin. Sharpie would have thicker lines, but it would still get the job done, especially if you have a nice new tip that is still quite pointy. You could use that. You could also use maybe like a black colored pencil or pencil crayon. Use that. What else? You could do this with black watercolor and a very thin brush, but that I think would be very, very tedious, and you wouldn't get the fine lines that you're looking for. So I'm going to use this. Use whatever you have. You could also wait to do the line work till you've maybe ordered something or gone to grab something at the store. So I'm going to work on the parts that are the most dry. So that would be this background circle should be the most dry. If you do have splashes that came onto that circle, and those are a little bit wet, so mine are dry. I know right here and right here is a little bit wet. So that'll be like the thing that I do last. Any part that's wet, do those last. So let's have a look at what we have. We have leaves, oak leaves, regular leaves, umbrellas, acorns. Oh, that's pretty much it. Leaves, acorns, umbrellas. Umbrellas are in the movie a lot. Kind of a reoccurring theme. The little boy loans his umbrella to the little girls. That was really sweet. The little girls bring an umbrella to their dad at the bus stop. Was really cute. They give an umbrella to Totoro, which is ridiculous because he's huge. Somehow it grows bigger. But yeah, we've got some umbrellas, acorns, magical acorns, and leaves. You know, they're in the forest. There's lots of leaves. So these are just very sketchy interpretations. They're not fancy at all. Some of my acorns look a little misshapen. So I'll show you a few, and then you take it wherever you want. If you want an umbrella here and here and nowhere else, if you only want acorns and leaves, you can do that. So let's go with, we'll just do a basic acorn. Like a sort of like a semicircle for a cap. And then I like to do like a little bit of cross hatching on the cap. The acorn cap has a little bit of crisscross cross hatching, so diagonal lines and then the other way around. Acorn bottom, little stem. That's it. Nothing fancy there. You can make your acorns look however you think acorns look. Another acorn. These are going to be scattered all over in different directions, so turn your paper, do upside down acorns, sideways acorns. Let me show you an umbrella. Let's show you an umbrella. You guys know how to make an umbrella, right? Like a semicircle. And then any number of arches, so 3, 4, sound good? 4. I like to do lines coming down to each of those points. Some umbrellas have a little nubbin at the top. You can do a little nubbin on the top of your umbrella. And then the handle, just like a J, like a long J shape. And then I've added a little bit, so it's just kind of filled it in black. A little bit. And you can add, I've got a little bit of shading kind of on the umbrella itself. It's squiggly lines. Kind of like that. A bit more. Just squiggles. And then I've got leaves. So I've got oak leaves, which have these like fingery lobes that come off. So when I do leaves, I usually like to draw like the spine of the leaf first. And then these lobey shapes. Kind of like that. I could do another one over here. And they could be curvy. They don't have to be straight. There's a couple of oak-esque leaves. I'm not drawing for like a botanical textbook here. I'm just doing basic shapes. Oak leaves and then just regular leaves. Leaves. Like this. Like that. They could have like more lines on them. Any leafy shape you want. Curvy. There's a little leaf. There's a different little leaf. We're going to fill this whole area with just any little doodles. If you want to put flowers in there, go ahead. If you want to do little baby Totoros, do it. Do another umbrella. And definitely have things like going off the edge. So like half of a leaf coming in from the edge, or half of an acorn. Just the handle of an umbrella coming in. You can draw like the sun, you can draw flowers, raindrops, what else? What else? What else? I'm going to draw some other things. So what did I say? I said sun. Sun would be nice. Different sizes too. I've got big acorns, big leaves, little leaves. Sun is nice. Flowers, I might do some flowers. Anything like pertaining to the woods and nature would tie in with the theme. Let's do a sun over here. Flowers. I like the idea of raindrops. Raindrops kind of go with the umbrellas idea. If you guys have never seen the movie, I do recommend it. It's a nice short. It's only an hour and a half, and I believe it's on. I think it's on Prime Video right now. If you missed the title of the movie, it's My Neighbor Totoro by Studio Ghibli. They also made movies like Secret World of Arrietty, Kiki's Delivery Service, all very cute, animated, great movies for kids with just kind of simple plots and nice messages. Okay, mine's starting to fill up. I'm starting to like wonder, okay, where can I put my next thing? I'm running out of room. And that's the goal, right? Is to kind of fill it up like as if it was a printed pattern. We can fit a couple more things, but I do like to leave a lot of like the background color to just kind of show through. Don't forget your edges. Do things near the edges, right off the circle. Yeah, mine looks pretty full. There's how full that one is. Here's how full this one is. Yeah, I like the sun. That's cute. The drips are cute. Flowers. Maybe a little more flowers. You could do like swirls to just fill space. Little swirly, like this. Swirl. Swirl. Kind of reminds me of like the rings of a tree. Or like a snail shell. That kind of fills space. Little swirls. And then outline everything else. So you're going to outline the white, the blue, and the gray Totoro's, the leaf. We can add little spine details on the leaf. Yeah, so I'm going to still use that fine tip black pen and just go over all your pencil lines. And, you know, if a little bit of pencil line is still showing, that's okay. That's all right. That's all part of the process. And the black lines kind of tidy up any wiggly edges that I have. So like over here, my ear is a little bit on my yellow, but when the black line goes down, it kind of can hide that a little bit. Yeah, there's definitely still areas where you can see a little bit of white. That's not a problem. Definitely seeing some areas with pencil. No big deal, especially where I kind of did a bunch of sketchy marks. Don't forget your eyeballs and noses of people. These little hands. Yes, now his eyeballs are more distinct because I did them in the pen. And then this guy's nose, we're going to leave a tiny white highlight. Just like the bigger Totoro's nose, this one I left a tiny white highlight on his nose. It was just way too small to do that with my paintbrush. There, now he has a tiny little baby nose. Even these boomerang shapes, they get outlined too. And yeah, the line between the belly and the blue. And you can see me, I'm still rotating just so that my hand is the most comfortable it can be when drawing. And that gives you nice steady lines. And I didn't outline the big circle. I chose not to, but if you want to outline that whole big circle, you can do that too. I just didn't. Anywhere there's a little bit of wetness, so my leaf, you can kind of see it glossy. If I catch the light just right, oh, there it goes. I'm not going to do the detail on my leaf until it's dry, but I can outline it because the outline is dry. There, so you can kind of see where like the green was wet and the gray was wet, so I left a white gap, and then the black pen went on top of that gap, but you can still see a tiny bit of white, but that is okay. No one will even perceive that. They won't even see that. So even with the black line, there's still a little white showing. Do not worry about it at all. Oh yeah, there's this little, with the black pen, there's like a little tuft above his nose, like furry texture, and he's got whiskers, big whiskers, like they're really quite thick in the movie. I might even grab my Sharpie and give him real thick ones. So there's a little bit of kind of fuzzy texture above his nose. I do want to give him thick whiskers. He's got real thick whiskers, so I'm going to grab this. Let's see how that turns out. But if you want to do thin ones like that, you can definitely stick with a thin. Oh yeah. Now that's some whiskers. He also has this very huge mouth that's kind of scary at times, but we didn't show that part. Yeah, so I'm going to wait. This is wet, so I'm not going to do my leaf texture yet. But I will get started on my little sprites, little dust bunnies. You could do this with your fine tip, with a Sharpie, or with black paint. You can get the black paint going again. But I'll just show you how to do a few of them, and then you can do as many as you want. If anyone needs to like be going, I'll show you. I'll start with the fine tip pen. That's good for like these little bitty baby ones, and then maybe like either paintbrush or Sharpie for some bigger ones. So I just start with the 2 eyeballs. So just 2 little baby eyeballs. And then from those eyeballs, I just do black lines radiating outwards for his fuzzy texture. So just from all directions, starting from the inside working out so that the tips are a little bit thinner. There's one little sprite. So I start with the eyeballs, 2 little circles or ovals with pupils, and then spiky lines coming out. So that's a little teeny baby one. Let's do a bit bigger one. And it could be on the color, or it could be on the white, either or, so that, the eyeballs end up being a color. That's fine. So there's 2 eyeballs. This is going to be a bit bigger one. Spiking out in all directions, and then I just fill it in extra fluffy. Yeah, so different sizes, big, small, on the color, on the white, all over. 1, 2, like 5-ish big ones, 5-ish small ones, 10-ish altogether. So yeah, just have fun adding them anywhere. They could be on different angles. And you could do this with your watercolor. You could do this with watercolor brushes, those pens, marker, thin pen. I'm going to do another little baby one. Apparently it's only children who can see these little dust bunny sprites in the houses. Children can see them, but not the grown-ups. Children just have that beautiful, pure belief in something that lets them see things that grown-ups can't. So it will take you a while to finish all your little dust bunny sprites. Maybe you are still working on filling in your background here. That's okay. While you guys are finishing up some drawing tasks there, I'll show you some upcoming events here with me. So yeah, this event was obviously free on Facebook Live. We have done a few of these very similar events in the past, and those videos are still available to watch. So if you enjoyed doing this one with me, you might enjoy some of the ones that are already posted on our page, available to watch right now. So this one's called Remembrance Poppies. We did this one in November. But poppies and flowers are year-round. It doesn't have to be Remembrance Day. So that one's available on our Facebook page. You could even search Remembrance Poppies watercolor, and that video should come up. So that one's available to watch right now. Do it tomorrow. This one we did in December, Festival of Lights, some candles. So this is maybe a little bit more challenging in that it's a lot of different transparency levels all in one painting. So a lot of level 1s, these very light ones, and then a lot of 4s and 5s in the dark sky. So you can follow along this video. Just search up Festival of Lights watercolor, and this one's also available on our YouTube channel, Artist Palette Durham on YouTube. Those ones are both free, available to do right now. Coming up in free watercolor events, Valentine's Day is coming up, February, so less than a month. And we're doing this wonderful piece that I made. This one's titled Love is Love is Love, because we are celebrating all different types of love, whether you are gay, lesbian, trans, what other ones do I have on here? Bi, that one's bi. So just some different, a different take on the flags that represent different groups. This one's a free event on Valentine's Day. So I'm kind of promoting it as like a dinner and a paint situation. So make a little dinner, sit down and paint with me for a little date night on Valentine's Day. And I guess we're also celebrating diversity a little bit too. So that one's a free one right here. No, not right here. YouTube Live, Valentine's Day. I also want to show you we have a Facebook group. So in the description of this video, I do mention our Facebook group, Watercolor Lovers by Artist Palette Durham Region. So watercolor is spelt with the U in it, because we are Canadian with the letter U. So if you're searching that up, spell it that way. Watercolor Lovers Facebook group. We have weekly free demos. So every Wednesday, Watercolor Wednesday I call it, I post a video. It's a short video, 10 or 20 minutes, for a painting to do on your own time. So I'll show you some examples of those free ones in the group already, so you can watch this one immediately. This video is already posted. Jellyfish. We use salt to get kind of cool textures up there. That one's free. It's already in the group there. Birch trees. We did that one a few weeks ago. We use masking tape to mask the shape of the trees as we do the sky. So I teach you how to do that one in the watercolor Facebook group. That one's ready to be done. This is one that Vera posted. I did slightly different colors, kind of a negative space. She showed us how to do a negative space painting. Vera taught that one. What other ones? Oh, this one is from back in the fall. We did fall leaves. That video is available to watch right now. What else? What else? More jellyfish. And we do color mixing, how to mix different colors, that kind of thing. So if you'd like to join our group, you can post pictures of this painting that you did today. You can post pictures of other watercolors that you've done either on your own time or with me. We'd love to have you in our Facebook group. It's a nice, small, intimate group for watercolor enthusiasts. Beginners are definitely welcome. Okay, what else can I show you? Oh, we have upcoming, of course, there's paid events too. Some upcoming stuff with me. I'm kind of the resident watercolor gal, so that's why I'm just showing you a bunch of watercolors. Whimsical Whale. Whimsical Whale. Lots of great textures in this one. So if you look here in the water, how did I get that texture? I will show you in the event. This one's on Zoom. You can get your tickets on our website, which is artistpalettedurham.com. Of course, we're doing this one February 6th, I believe, which is a Saturday? No, yeah, it's a Saturday. Saturday the 6th, February 6th. Whimsical Whale. Valentine's Day is coming up, I mentioned. We are doing Love Doves in watercolor. This one is Monday, February 15th, so the day after Valentine's. It's still it's Valentine's all week. So Love Doves, if you'd like to join me for that one, tickets on our website. Love Doves. 15th, on the 15th. Coming up, we're going to do a little bit of line and wash. So if you were to put the lines of this down first with the pen, and then do the watercolor washes after, that would be line and wash. So that's what this is. We do the pen drawing first, and then we do the washes of color second. So this one is paired up with this one. So you get to do 2 paintings in one for that event. 2 nautical paintings. And we are doing this one Saturday, February 20th. So 2 for 1. That one plus this one, a nautical theme. So you can learn all about line and wash with me on Zoom. All right, yeah, keep adding more sprites. You can add more splashes after the fact. You can customize anything. You can add more flowers. You can add like painted flowers around here. Watch the movie and then come back and add extra details. I'm going to add the leaf texture that I never added. Just some veins. Just like that. Something like that. And we do enjoy putting on these free events for you on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. And we do appreciate any tips. If you feel you'd like to send a tip, here's the tip options. They're also in the description. KristenArtist@hotmail.com. Kristen is spelled kind of an unusual way. Chris, and then the number 10. Kristen. Or paypal.me/KristenArtist. I do appreciate tips. It enables me to put on more free events because I can buy supplies. Right? I would love, love, love to see the results of your paintings today. So that could be in the Facebook group that I mentioned, or you can direct message us on Facebook. You can put it in the comments of this event, so the event page for Totoro's Friends. Throw a picture in the comments, and that way everyone can see them. We'd love to see the results of your paintings. So yeah, they turned out pretty similar. Similar but different. This guy's a little shorter, this one's a little taller. But I would love to see your interpretations of my painting on Facebook. If you have any questions at all, fire away. You have my undivided attention. You're welcome. You're welcome, you're welcome. Lots of thank yous in there. Yeah, I would love to see future events. I try to keep all of my events very beginner friendly. If you've never handled a brush before, I find that hard to believe, but definitely check out one of my events. I've had people say, it's been 45 years since I've painted, and they turn out pretty darn good most of the time. Let's see, lots of thank yous, so cute. I think we're so cute. Really fun, good, good. I don't have a Venmo, so tip options are right here. Thank you so much. A family birthday. Well, happy birthday. It's my cousin's birthday. If my cousin's watching, happy birthday, Chris. Yes, I have a cousin named Chris, and I'm named Chris, and we have the same last name. Boy and girl, Chris. Loved it so much. I'm so glad. So glad. Rhonda has never tried watercolor before. Well, try it. Try it today. Try it tomorrow. Keep trying it. This one's fun and colorful, and there's not, not layering happening, so all your colors stay very bright and not muddled, not muddy, because we're just kind of painting each section one at a time, so there's no real way to mess this up. Do I have any kid ones coming up soon? Well, I do really like the simplicity of this one that's coming up for Valentine's Day. Simple shapes, blocks of color, and maybe this is kind of like an opportunity to open up a discussion with maybe older kids about, acceptance of different types of love, even diversity. If maybe you have a young adult that maybe doesn't know how to bring up the subject of a different type of love, or just keep it nice and simple and just you can do pink hearts, red hearts. You don't have to do all the stripes. I think this is a nice simple one. This one could be done in acrylic too. It doesn't have to be watercolor. Acrylic, even pencil crayons. You could draw it with pencil and color it in with pencil crayons or even crayons. So that would be good for like a younger kid who can hold like a chunky kid's crayon. That'd be good for kids. Yeah, in the Watercolor Lovers Facebook group is a lot of simpler exercises to do. So like the jellyfish, where did he go? So the jellyfish might be a little simpler for a smaller kid. Just that shape and then a lot of lines and squiggles. Kids would have so much fun making all those lines and squiggles. Yeah, simpler, easier exercises in the watercolor group. Lots of videos there. All right. Beth, the video will be available forever. So if you do want to look back at that first portion, but if you were able to catch up and finish up, then wow, good for you. Yeah, the video's up forever. You can share it, send it to a friend who you think would like to get creative this afternoon. Lots of fun, lots of fun. Thank you guys for all your questions. Even answering some of my questions like, what are these called? Who knew? All right, I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. Please feel free to message us if you have any questions. And hopefully we'll see you in another event soon. Have a good afternoon, a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe out there, and happy painting, you guys.